Hey gang, it's your pal Brady here from Monkey Edge in beautiful Mesa, Arizona. And to the left of me, from the great white north, is Knifemaker Rod Olson. Thanks for coming by and making the time for us,
Well,
Rod.
thank you very much for having me here, Brady.
Why don't we maybe start at the beginning? When did you make your first knife?
The first knife I made was probably around 1979. I'd always liked knives, always carried pocket knives as a kid. A fellow came in with a kit knife, a friend of mine. I put it together, and then from there started grinding my own blades, then progressed to my own heat treating. And from there, making hunting knives I didn't find satisfying enough, so I started in with the folders, and I've been going with the folders ever since.
And the rest they say is, and why don't you give, I think it's interesting too what your mainline, what your family business has been for decades, right?
Yes, I've been a silversmith for over 40 years. We've manufactured belt buckles in Canada for forever, it seems. So going into the knife side of it, we use a lot of the same tools, a lot of handwork is the same, so it was a natural fit for me.
So yeah, there's a direct kind of lineage in that craftsmanship there.
Well, there's precision involved and style, lines, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, the aesthetic sensibilities
Exactly,
along with the
yeah.
the technical capabilities,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. Which kind of brings us. So you recently have stepped out of that business within the past year or so, right?
Yeah.
And now you are a full-time knife maker, right?
Full time, yes. Yeah.
Which brings us here to the new model, which you have deemed Loki, right?
Loki, it's named after a Norse god, yeah.
And what was the inspiration behind this model in particular? This is quite a bit different than your previous work.
I'm just exploring new avenues. I like the bigger knives, just trying to expand what I've been doing all along.
It's definitely a beefy knife. I think what are these the titanium frame are what, 190?
Everything's 190 in that knife,
Yeah,
190
so
blade and scale, so it makes it a handful, but yet still feels good in the hand.
Yeah, it still retains that elegance and refinement, present in your other knives.
It is. It's made to work. I've beefed up everything inside. I build my own buttons, so it's a 270 440C stainless button, heat treated to 55 Rockwell. I do my own spacers. Basically the only thing I don't manufacture on my knives is my pivots and my 256 screws.
Right. Now, why don't we talk about the button lock a little bit? That's kind of what you've been known for a while.
Yes.
The past few years or so.
A lot of people are making liner locks, frame locks. The button lock to me seemed like it needed to come out. Not a lot of guys do it. Possibly a little more technical in a way than a frame lock. I think it's just virtually as strong, easy to operate. And another reason I like the button lock is because I can make both sides of my frame the same.
Right, because you don't have obviously the cutout for whether it was a frame lock or trying to accommodate.
Right, and in a lot of the earlier models and everything I'm going to be carrying through with the stuff I'm making as far as inlays and everything, they're going to match pretty good too. So that.
What bearing system have you been using?
I use the caged roller bearings in these knives. They're running on a 1/4-inch pivot.
Yeah, they flip great, and what that button lock, it's just that kind of a satisfying click and a tight lockup, and
Right.
very easy to disengage even when you give it a hard flip. A lot of times, and I'm not a knife maker. I'm just an idiot that sells knives, but. On a lot of times on flippers, particularly these days, as they, as guys are getting into more and more bearings and stuff, if you give them a huge flip, you can get into a very, a sticky lock situation by firing it open that
Right.
way. And I've noticed with the button lock, you can flip till your heart's content, and it just gives a nice, satisfying click, and is very easy to disengage.
Correct. I think part of that is the buttons are highly polished, and the fact that they are you know, within 10 points of the same hardness of the blade, they don't seem to gall.
It's not that titanium on stainless type of,
yeah.
you know, that galling.
And a lot of guys do use steel on steel, which I think is the only way to go as far as I'm concerned with the frame lock. So,
talk about blade steels. What are you preferring and liking these days?
I not exclusively, but I use RWL 34 for most of the knives in production right now. I'm open to using virtually anything that a customer would like, but I find that the RWL 34 is a really nice blade steel to work with. It grinds nice, easy to heat treat. I do use Damasteel in my knives also, which is virtually the same thing. It's RWL 34 also. I find it to be just a pretty good all-around steel.
Good, solid performer, and that,
exactly.
And that edge retention, corrosion resistance, and
exactly.
and toughness criteria there. Things that we're showing here, Rod was gracious enough to do what I think is a super cool interpretation of the monkey edge frag pattern here. He kind of adapted, look guys, the monkey edge frag, it's not rocket science, it's squares, right? But he did a super cool rendition of it that kind of matches the flow and the design lines of the knife, which I think is a super cool look, and and gives you that little bit of extra grip in there too. What versions do you have? What do you have in the pipeline next for Loki's?
I'm bringing out an integral that I've just basically finished designing, featuring Kevlar inlays. That's next on the agenda. I do have a brand new model coming out, hopefully within the next month. That's going to be pretty cool too. But
now, for you guys, not to stop you, but for those of you guys that don't know what an integral or an integral is traditionally knives are several pieces for the handle, whereas the integral knife this frame will be one solid piece of titanium to include the backspacer, etc., etc. And like we were mentioning, with the fact that that Rod uses the button lock, it'll be aesthetically pretty cool, because now even on the lock side you're going to have you're basically a solid chunk of titanium with this with the button lock there, so that'll be very cool. Blade variations, or is this going to be?
Well, on this particular model, this is the blade. Okay. The next model out is I'm going to have a 2-blade version of it, a Tanto style blade along with a deep belly recurve blade, which should look pretty good too.
Last year's kind of been a transitional year, right? As you've basically retired from your belt buckle business and eased, and transitioned over to knife making, and hopefully had some fun in there too, right? Not just work, right? Yeah.
I'm semi-retired. I still love to work. I'm in my shop 7 days a week when I'm at home. My thoughts on production are up to 100 pieces a year would be probably the maximum that I really have time for. I don't want to be super exclusive, but 100 knives is enough at this time for me.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed that about creative people and artists through the years, that it's hard to, there's really no such thing as retirement, is there?
No,
it's not even an option.
No.
Yeah,
I've worked my whole life.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
And it's not work.
Yeah.
Everything I've done, I enjoy everything. I get into my shop every morning. I can't wait to get there, and the day goes by so fast. It's supper before I know it.
Yeah, and Rod is designing in 3D, right? And
yes, I am.
You have your I
have a CNC mill. I bring it down to, I think my knives are basically 20%, 80%. 20% machine work, 80% still hand work. I do a lot of finishing on my knives by hand, well, virtually all of it. all my blades are hand ground. I don't want to get them super manufactured.
Right, and still retain that connection
Right,
there. With
exactly.
them.
Yeah.
So who were kind of some of your early influences, or who was the first custom knife maker that you said,
Henry
wow,
Frank was
really?
the man. Oh yeah,
the first guy that you said, oh wow, I want to be able to do that.
Right. He lived within 3 hours drive of me, and I went down to visit him numerous times. More so for just a little mentorship and everything, and stuff like that. As we got going, and I started attending shows, especially in Canada, Wolfgang Lochner was a huge influence. Brian Ty, I know very well. I've known him for quite a while. Brian Little, another fellow from my area, actually. We shared a lot of ideas.
And you still work. You and Brian still collaborate a bit, right?
Brian and I, we talk all the time. I use some of his parts, his buttons and stuff on some of my knives and a few things like that. I buy my steel from Brian because he is the Damasteel
guy
dealer for Canada. Greg Lightfoot and I spend some time together talking about design and things like that. So and being from Canada, we don't have hundreds of knife makers. So it's good to get together with, it is good to get together with other knife makers to share what's going on, new influences, new ways of doing things.
Yeah, there's not 100 knife makers, but you guys are like a small pack of rabid dogs up there, right?
Yeah,
wolves or something.
We have some pretty good knife makers up there, I think.
And, there's some incredible stuff. Kirby Lambert's another guy.
Exactly, Kirby's a nice guy.
Is just putting out incredible stuff lately.
Yeah.
But well, that's great. Anything that you want to add, or anything that we're missing?
Hopefully look for some new stuff coming up too. I'm very excited about some new stuff. Every day I go into the workshop, I want to build a better product, design-wise and functionality-wise. So hopefully it just keeps on going.
And, you're one of those knife makers too that I know stands behind their stuff. And
exactly.
Very accessible to customers, as
lifetime warranties on these knives.
Well, Rod, thanks a ton for coming by today and making the time for us. Looking forward, guys. I've been kind of teasing these for a little bit. We had the early prototype that we had posted up and sold right away, and we'd been teasing this batch. But when you had mentioned that you were coming into town, I wanted to make sure to wrestle you and get you in here and make you gab with us a little bit.
Sure.
So I sure appreciate your time and coming down, and it's been an absolute pleasure in working with you, and hopefully get these into the hands of as many folks as we can, so they can really see that precision and craftsmanship with the that unique design aesthetic. So looking forward to new things to come, and keep us in the loop. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much, Brady.
Thank you.